The King of the Forest, written and illustrated by Ariel King. Once upon a time, in a wiry forest, far past the deep, deep valley, there was a deer named Cervidae artiodactyla. He was the king of the forest. Cervidae was discontent with the forest. He dreamed of living in the city. He started to walk and saw his good friend Vulpes the fox. Vulpes was napping as he often did. He walked through the bamboo forest. He walked as the ground said, crunch, 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 munch, 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 as his hoofs trotted through. His friend Aileropoda melanosa heard his steps and came to say, hello, and when he heard the king was leaving, to say, goodbye. He came to the path which led to the village he had to go through to get to the city. The deer king marveled at how pretty the pink canopy covering the way was. Cervidae was disrupted from his musings by the fast approaching of paws behind him. Lupin, the leader of the wolves, had pursued him. Please, my liege, turn back! You will not find comforts, nor delicacies, nor solace in the city. It is for the land of man. Cervidae did not listen. He continued onward until he reached a cottage down the lane. It smelled of apples and pastry. There were no berries outside for the king to eat, though, nor was there any water to drink. He continued into town, hoping to find something to enjoy or a friend to play with. He found a cafe. At the cafe there were no squirrels, nor birds, nor any of his subjects to keep him company. The people ran away too. Cervidae went around to the side of the cafe. Still there was nothing for him to eat, and no one for him to greet. He smelled the dark roasting beans, and his stomach growled. Cervidae was stubborn, though, and hoped venturing further into the city would satisfy him. The sun settled and the moon rose. It was dark in the deep city. There was no warmth on the street, no humming of crickets like he was used to as a lullaby. Cervidae was very, very sad. He sat in the park and looked across the pond at the forest under the moonlight. His sensitive ears could hear the faint rumblings of his people. He wept for them in his heart. He thought deeply about going home, but he was afraid to admit his failures. A jellyfish popped out of the water and urged him to be strong. Face your fears, great Cervidae. You must return home. You must be strong. You are a king. But Cervidae was afraid. He did not know of courage. So he found a stout tree to sit under, and he sat. He sat, and he sat, and he sat, and he sat, until the moon waned. He lifted his eyes to the moon. When the small flame reached his irises, he wailed at how long he had spent away from his forest. But he was still afraid. And then his sensitive ears heard a scurry here, a scurry there. No, it was most definitely a scurry here. He looked down and saw Oswald Rabbit, his traveling friend. Cervidae, you're a long way from home. Why are you here? So the deer king told him of his woes. Oswald listened to the deer king's woes, and then he did a marvelous thing. He thought. He hummed and he hemmed. He nibbled his lip, and he twitched his long rabbit ears. He inhaled deeply before exhaling. You must have courage. Go back. Be a king of the forest. Cervidae thought about what wise Oswald the traveling rabbit had said. He sucked in a deep breath and plucked up his courage. I am king. I belong in my kingdom. It's time I return home. He went through the deep, dark city in the still night time, with only his hooves trotting to accompany him. Trot, trot, trot. Clump, clump, clump. He ran past the cafe as dawn approached, ignoring the growling of his stomach and breathing in ever steady. In and out, in and out. Servadae was going home. He came back to the lane covered in the pink canopy and grew more pensive. He composed himself. He was about to re-enter his rightful domain. As he entered the bamboo thicket, his regal walk had returned, hooves used to the uneven and free floor beneath him. He thought of his friend Alarapoda. His friend was soon found, and was happy to see the king returning. "Welcome home! How I've missed you so!" the panda declared. He walked further into the forest and saw Vulpes slumbering softly still. Soon, suddenly, without even realizing it, he smelled the familiar scent of his own forest, his home. He was finally home beneath the wiry branches. The king of the forest had returned home. All was well. The end.